I'm Catherine Tomlinson and I started an eco-conscious pottery company called Oxford Clay. So I don't just make pottery, I make resources for other potters wanting to be more eco-friendly in their pottery practice. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about sharing everything I've learned along my eco-conscious pottery journey with you. And I'm so glad you're here with me. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm Catherine Tomlinson, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about vinegar in pottery. What vinegar? So in this episode, we're going to talk about 3 ways that potters use vinegar in pottery. Because it can have quite magic effects actually, so it's definitely worth telling you all about vinegar in pottery, and it's got 3 like incredible uses basically. Okay, so let's get started. Vinegar in pottery. When I went to pottery classes, they actually used to use vinegar in this capacity. So this is the first use of vinegar. And it's actually for helping to stick bits of clay together. So what they told me was that vinegar can actually help to disintegrate clay. And so you can actually sort of paint it on to clay that you're about to join together. So you can paint the vinegar on, it kind of disintegrates that first layer of sort of clay molecules. And then you can also use a slip and you can kind of paint that on, score it, and then you can stick the 2 pieces together and it bonds it really, really well because that vinegar has it's disintegrated the clay to allow it to like really, really stick together, to really bond to that join. So that's the first use of vinegar, and I actually use vinegar for that purpose. So what I do is I have a little spray bottle of vinegar. And what I do in my work is I actually attach little designs that are dragonfly that I've actually made in a press mold. So I've made them in a mold, made them in a press mold. I like turn them out, and then I want to stick them on my work. But like when you're sticking anything together in pottery, it quite often can go wrong, and those bits can crack away from each other. So you want a really, really strong bond, and I want a really strong bond for those kind of like motifs that I'm using, from a mold onto my work. So what I do is I have a little spray bottle of vinegar. And I found out this the hard way actually. I only spray the vinegar onto the pot that I'm sticking those designs on, because I used to spray them on the sort of very intricate, very delicate dragonfly design that I was sticking onto the pot. And what it would do actually is, because vinegar is such a fantastic substance at kind of like disintegrating clay, it would quite often disintegrate the very intricate design of the dragonfly. And I really don't want that. I wanted to stick it on, as is, all kind of like with its proper design in place and stuff. So what I started doing was literally just spraying. So I didn't spray both parts. I just sprayed the pot part. And then what I do is I paint some slips, some paper clay casting slip. I just get a bit of that and I paint it on the back of the dragonfly design, and then I stick it on my pot, and that creates an incredibly strong bond, because the clay on the pot is like slightly disintegrated, and it's available for being really well adhered to by that combination of paper clay slip, and then the design on top, the kind of dragonfly design. So it sticks together like really, really well. So that's the first use of vinegar. And especially for pieces of clay that are like robust, maybe like leather hard, vinegar is such a cool substance to use for sticking them together. It will really, really help you just disintegrate that very top layer of clay, and really bond those pieces together. So if you're kind of doing like a slab pot, where you've got a lot of kind of straight edges that really need to be bonded really well together, obviously like score and slip as well, but vinegar is just that real added extra like a secret ingredient basically that will really bond those joints together. So that's the first use of vinegar. Oh yeah, just to say, you can use any vinegar for this. So so I actually I actually use vegan vinegar, because some vinegars are filtered through animal products. So the only vegan vinegar that I could find, vegan certified vinegar that I could find, was actually a cider vinegar. So you could probably use like any vinegar, and there are much cheaper vinegars available, but I was looking for like a vegan certified vinegar. So that's why I went down the apple cider vinegar route, which I think is actually more for like mixing into salad dressings and stuff. But it works really well for pottery as well. But there are loads of vinegars out there, and obviously you could use maybe like a white vinegar. That would that would be like like a spirit vinegar or something. That would probably be like one of the or a malt vinegar or something. They would be cheaper than cider vinegar. So and probably more available as well. Okay, so the second, we're on point 3. So we're on the second point. The second use of vinegar is that, so sometimes in pottery, potters want to make clay into like a more runny substance. So I actually do this when I make a casting slip, and you have to add a chemical basically to this to the slip to make it into like a runny liquid basically. And I use a deflocculant, and that you add a tiny amount of the deflocculant to the casting slip. So I use this deflocculant called sodium silicate, and I add a little tiny bit. You don't want to add too much because then it all goes horribly wrong. But add a tiny bit to my bucket of mixed up clay, and then it just goes into this it's like magic. It goes into this like runny substance, and then you can use it as casting slip. But vinegar has the opposite effect to a deflocculant. So it's actually called a flocculant in pottery. And so some potters use vinegar to thicken up things like slips. So they've already been deflocculated, say like, a colour's been mixed in, or and there's this runny slip. They might add a flocculant like vinegar, which kind of neutralises the sodium ions in the deflocculated slip, so it neutralizes it and will turn it back into a kind of more like a gelling effect. So potters might want to do this because they might want to like apply a layer of, say, like a slip or something without it like running into or dripping. They might want to just kind of have an even, like a sort of gelled layer on something. So that's another use for vinegar. It can be a flocculant in pottery, and it can gel substances that you might want to make thicker, like slip, for painting on perhaps, or dipping. Okay, so we're on the third one now. The third use of vinegar in pottery is it's amazing. I've actually been using vinegar to make my own colorants in pottery. So I spray on a salt and vinegar solution to electrical copper wire, and I've done a whole episode on this as well, actually, about how I make my own metal oxides. And you can listen to that episode and sort of go through like how I do it and stuff. But basically what I'm doing is I'm making verdigris, which is like a form of copper oxide, which has been like oxidized, but it's been oxidized by the air, and you're kind of I use vinegar to like create that oxidization process on the copper wire, and then I kind of crush off the verdigris. I use safety equipment. I've got my FFP3 face mask on, I've got gloves on, I've got my goggles on, and I'm crushing it off, and then I'm left with a jug of verdigris colorant. And I've been painting. I can paint that on my work. I can mix it with a little bit of glaze and paint it on, or a bit of water. You can also sprinkle it on, or you could mix that into a glaze to colour the whole glaze. So it's incredible. So I've been using vinegar for that. I've been using vinegar to speed up the oxidization process. So that copper wire would naturally create verdigris over a very long time. But what I do is I speed up that process with the salt and vinegar, which just really helps the oxidation process to like happen. So if you're interested in making your own metal oxides, I have a mini course on the Oxford Clay website that you can do, and then basically I go through all the steps. I also show you how to make iron oxide from rust as well that you can use in your work. So those two colours are basically brown, and then the verdigris comes out kind of a bluey green in pottery. So yeah, iron oxide's brown, and then the verdigris is like that beautiful kind of soft green colour. So it's less strong than a copper oxide or a copper carbonate, but it's like an amazing colour to, you know, to use in your work that you've made yourself from recycled metal. So there's a mini course on the Oxford Clay website, if you wanted to like learn how to do it. Yeah, go through how to do it, and I go through like how I use that colourant in my work, so you can see like how, you know, how potentially you could use it once you've made it. But it's also in the book. I go through like a step-by-step process as well. So it's in the book, Eco-Conscious Pottery Glazing. And on the front cover of that book, make your own pottery glazes with minimal harm to humans, animals, and the environment. On the front cover of that book, you can see what verdigris comes out like. That's the picture on the very front cover of that book. It's a beautiful kind of soft green colour. And that's the colour that verdigris makes. So I use vinegar for that, and I couldn't make my colourant without vinegar. So thank you, vinegar. Like I love using it. You know, again, I use that cider vinegar, the vegan certified cider vinegar for that process. And yeah, it's amazing. So I have it just in a spray bottle, and I mix it with salt, and then I just spray it onto copper wire. And that's how I make my colourant. So, so 3 amazing things that vinegar's used for. You wouldn't necessarily think that it was such a cool thing to use in pottery. I think definitely, you know, if you're having trouble, like, like joining stuff together, vinegar, like try using vinegar, you know, especially like say like a mug handle or something, the dreaded mug handle cracking off, which basically, you know, is a common occurrence. I'd say vinegar, like try vinegar on, you know, maybe on both like your hand, you know, the handle, the point where it's like attaching onto the mug, and also like your mug side. Try that, you know, obviously use slip as well, score it up well as well. Yeah, so score it you know, with the vinegar, and that will really help kind of disintegrate your pot. But just be super careful, because like I said, it could disintegrate your clay too much, you know, so it's probably better used for like slightly thicker work, or just, you know, a normal like a normal mug that you throw. You could probably, you know, you could do it on that. But if you've got extremely intricate work or a very, very thin pot, it can disintegrate your pot. So that's just like the only cautionary note to say at the end of that. So yeah, no, it's been really nice having you here, like me talking to you about vinegar in pottery. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Oxford Clay podcast. And thank you so much for joining me today. And yeah, happy potting until then, happy vinegar potting until next time. And see you then. Bye. So if you enjoyed that and you're interested to learn more about eco-conscious pottery, head over to the Oxford Clay website, which is www.oxfordclay.co.uk. I can't wait to see you there.